pretty interesting article here. Freedom Writer blog or series of articles, opinion pieces by Margaret Kimberley. This one's titled Vaccine Passports in a Failed State. Failed states, obviously, U.S. This is on Black Agenda Report. News commentary analysis from the Black Left. Highly recommend all of their work. They have a number of amazing people writing for them. Margaret Kimberley happens to be one of them. The non-vaccinated can be smeared and equated with MAGA hat-wearing Trumpers regardless of their religious or political affiliations. The COVID-19 pandemic fully exposed how badly the United States treats its citizens. I mean, if there was any question before, I think that question was definitely laid to rest. The United States is a failed state, as she pointed out in the title of this piece. People are said to live in an advanced country actually have no right to employment or housing or health care. I would also say higher education. Those who are black get worse care when they get it at all, and the political system works to the benefit of the corporate interests and wealthy individuals. Hard to argue with that either. People may get scraps such as small stimulus payments in moments of political crisis, but they have no expectation of anything resembling a safety net to protect their lives. The United States is one of the countries with a high COVID death toll in part because it failed at even rudimentary infection control. The country was late developing a diagnostic test, a simple test tool which would have minimized illness and societal disruption. Now, after 550,000 deaths, the U.S. leads the world only in its vaccination efforts. The 3 different vaccines have received emergency use authorization, and 56 million people are now fully vaccinated. And again, most, if not all, of the technology and resources that were used to develop those vaccines were funded by us, the U.S. taxpayer. This success still creates other problems. Vaccination is seen as the panacea which will undo all the systemic problems which created the crisis in this country. Anyone who questions anything about the vaccines, the thinking behind them, or the process by which they're being distributed may be banned from social media or other platforms. That's true, I've seen this happen. Those who choose not to be vaccinated have been marginalized. The New York Times proclaimed that evangelical conservatives were the group singularly responsible for vaccine hesitancy. The subtext is clear. The non-vaccinated can be smeared and equated with MAGA hat-wearing Trumpers, regardless of their religious or political affiliations or the decisions they choose to make regarding their health care. If vaccination is seen as a main tool of protection, then the unvaccinated will be viewed as suspiciously as a group to be excluded. There's talk of a vaccine passport which will give freedom to travel, but the term now encompasses many aspects of public life, including access to entertainment and sports venues. I mean, the idea of a vaccine passport is pretty dystopian and really, frankly, disgusting on every level. And we'll get to what the Biden administration said who would be developing this passport technology. Major League Baseball opened its season with stadiums demanding proof of vaccination or negative test results. Universities across the country have announced that students are required to vaccinate in order to attend classes on campus. Employers are requiring workers to get the jab in order to keep their jobs. The Biden admin did not ease any concerns when they casually announced that corporate America would decide these weighty issues. That's just the group who should be in charge of deciding who gets to go and travel where is corporate America, the capitalist owner class. Yes, that makes total fucking sense, but again, not surprising. Both the Democrats and Republicans completely bought and paid for by the capitalists. White House spokesman Jen Psaki said, quote, "A determination or development of vaccine passport, whatever you want to call it, would be driven by the private sector," Psaki added. "There will be no centralized universal federal vaccination database and no federal mandate requiring everyone to obtain a single vaccination credential. The qualifier does not resolve the multitude of problems in this country. The NSA has records of everyone's electronic communications, every email, phone call, and social media posts in federal hands because of private sector cooperation with the government. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Apple. Thank you, phone companies. Thank you, internet providers. Psaki's words are cold comfort to anyone paying attention. Indeed, the U.S. has a patchwork for-profit entities instead of true healthcare system. And again, the United States pays more for healthcare than any country in the world. We have fucking shitty for-profit healthcare, but what do we have? Insurance company executives that make millions, if not tens of millions of dollars a year, and those insurance companies deny people health care. You got to go see this doctor. This is only covered. You got to meet this deductible. You got this premium. You got your co-pays. Failed state, like she said. The very same people victimized by these private structures are now told to trust the private sector with the right to public accommodation. Pretty Orwellian. Same politicians who say we have no right to healthcare, housing, or work should not also be able to restrict our movements or our ability to access education, employment, or rec. To do so diminishes the few human rights we have in this country. These efforts must be opposed. I agree. Ironically, it is the right wing who have spoken out most forcefully on the issue. Republican governors are banning efforts to treat the vaccinated and unvaccinated differently. The politicization of health, say that 5 times fast, of a health issue and so-called culture war confusion have created a situation where people who ordinarily support human rights are willing to give the private sector and the state more power over their lives. We are tracked with smartphones and asked to give up more and more info electronically. Any passport tracking process will exclude millions of people and only enhance the many inequalities in this country. And again, it will always be, this type of technology will always be used against the most vulnerable, marginalized, and oppressed, or the people who speak out against those injustices, right? Proof of vaccination status will surely be the latest weapon the American racist arsenal and black people would suffer under the system. Yes, completely, Margaret Kimberly, she gets it. If Americans are concerned about spreading COVID, they must look to the rest of the world for guidance. While Cuba, the target of 60 years of U.S. sanctions, sent doctors around the world, developed its own vaccine, and boasts of a low death rate, the phony advanced nation lurches from crisis to solution to crisis again. China is the target of bipartisan blame for COVID, but has fewer than 5,000 deaths, a population of 1.3 billion. The U.S. is what, 340, 350 million? 550,000 deaths. China, what, 4 or 5 times the population of the U.S.? A fucking fraction. A fucking fraction. Failed state, indeed. We do not have to compromise safety or legal rights. We need a country which can direct its resources to the public good. The medical community should ask Cuba, China, Vietnam, and other countries with low rates of infection for help in addressing the ongoing health emergency. A country where the demand for free and universal health care is dismissed should not be allowed to determine who can move about freely. Read that again, because that is an excellent point to highlight. A country where the demands for free and universal health care is dismissed should not be allowed to determine who can move about freely. The need to restrict public movement based on vaccine status or create a segregated society for millions of people without proof of any clear benefit. Neither the government nor the private sector should be allowed to make these determinations. Americans should know that separate accommodation is inherently equal. And what have we seen before? The separate but equal. Same shit would play out here, right? So the whole idea of fucking vaccine passport developed by the private sector, completely fucking ridiculous and dystopian and authoritarian and disgusting on every level. And again, as she points out, if we really wanted to go about this in a way that actually protected human rights, protected life, we wouldn't be pushing for fucking vaccine passports when we don't have universal health care. And as Margaret Kimberly also points out, let's maybe talk to Cuba, talk to Vietnam, talk to China. They've handled this pandemic splendidly compared to the complete and utter disaster the failed state of the U.S. has handled this. And again, you wouldn't expect anything else from a failed state, right? I mean, universal health care, living wage, emergency UBI, canceling student loan debt, canceling medical debt. Think that would have maybe saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of fucking lives? Developing the testing. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck. Like the video if you like the damn video. All part of the people. Peace. Much love.